couple of days ago, I did a video entitled Age is Not an Excuse for the True Reasoning. The reason I did this video was mainly due to the fact that, well, a lot of folk, a lot of folks basically still brought up the excuse or brought up the reasoning that age is the big gap that prevents a spike in rarity deal from happening. However, that is not really the case, and I think we all know that. The other thing that people brought up is putting these two together is basically referencing and acknowledging pedophilia. You're basically turning Rarity into a pedophile or whatever. But here's the counter argument. The counter argument is if that is the case, then why do people constantly ship Spike with Applejack, or Spike with Rainbow Dash, or Spike with Starlight Glimmer, or Spike with Fluttershy, or even Twilight, who's technically his sister, or even Pinkie Pie? Why do that? I mean, why even ship him with Ember? Yeah, she's a fellow dragon, but she's older than him, right? Or is she? The same could be said for Smolder. People feel he should be shipped with her, but wouldn't that violate something else that's known in real life as something that's against the law, that is wrong, and that's teacher and student, or staff member and student getting together? I'm just saying, guys, because honestly, I think the real reason is this, and I said it before in that video, and I'm going to say it here in this updated version because the volume kind of dropped in that video, so I do apologize for those that had to turn up the volume to listen to most of it. But the real reason is the fact that a lot of fans still feel that Rarity is just baiting Spike along. She's just manipulating him. She's just using him. And, if that was the case, do you think honestly the staff would keep going with this? I mean, here's the thing. If the staff never wanted Spike to continue his crush on Rarity, or his attraction to Rarity, his affection for Rarity, don't you think, like I've asked before in videos, they would have ended it by now? I think they would have. I honestly think they do. I mean, they would have. There's several examples in media to where if fans don't want to see something happen, the creative staff will listen and say, okay, that's not working, fans don't like it, let's cut it off right there. Or if something is popular among the fans, even though visually in front of them it may not look like it's going to go anywhere, the creative staff will still, seeing the popularity that it has among fans, they'll still tease it, they'll still acknowledge it, they'll still reference it, they'll still go in a possible direction of making whatever the scenario is a reality. And Friendship is Magic is no stranger to that. I mean, throughout its history, fans have been wanting to know about certain things of the characters. They've been wanting expansion on the lore of the franchise, on the history, and on the origins of said characters and of other characters. One of the things fans have always wanted was to know about the parents. Who were Twilight's parents? Well, we saw them apparently at the beginning of the show. You know, who were who were Applejack's parents? Would we ever see them? Find out more about them? Rainbow Dashes, Pinkies, Fluttershy's, Rarities. Would we ever get a chance to see them at least once or twice? And basically, throughout the show's history, the staff has listened to us, and they have given us those opportunities. They've given us those moments, and they didn't have to. Which is why we still see a bit of Sparity in the series, even in the final season, or in the last couple of seasons, due to the fact that the staff listens to the fans. They listen to the fans and they see that a majority of the fans like this ship, and that's why they keep it going. You know, and as far as age goes, Jim Miller said it in a tweet that that's basically up to interpretation. I mean, Jim Miller even tried to assume and guess along the fact of how old Spike is. Jim Miller probably, tried to say, hey, look, maybe Spike's 16 to 22 in Dragon years and maybe 10 to 12 in Pony years. You know, he even said that if Lauren Faust was to ever be asked this question, that she might refute it. So basically, according to some fans, Spike's age through that tweet, if I can bring it up here on the screen, you'll see it, pretty much confirmed that Spike is old enough to be with someone, a pony like Rarity. That maybe, that in Dragon years he's old enough, but Pony years he's not. But one of the biggest deceptions that, or one of the, not deceptions, but one of the biggest issues that fans have that feel that Spike and Rarity is wrong to be, is the fact that Spike is small for his size. But here's the thing we have to remember. Here's the thing we have to remember. Dragons come depending on how you look at and view fantasy that involves dragons. Dragons, no matter what what the franchise is, what the story is, what the fantasy is, dragons sometimes come in various shapes and sizes. It doesn't matter, whether or not they're this age or they're that age. It all depends on, how they're depicted. In the case of Friendship is Magic, it's greed that would cause a rapid growth. And or some kind of magical mishap as we see in a flashback. And those are the only ways. Otherwise, a dragon could age for 1,000 years and still remain small or medium size. Someone like Smolder could age up until she's about 50 and still remain the same size she is. Same with Ember. Spike is probably the less greediest of dragons that we know of. And, he could just remain that way for 20 more years, 30 more years. He could age till he's about 40 or 50 or 60 himself and still be small. So basically, when it comes to Dragon's physical appearance, especially when it's Friendship is Magic, it all depends on how greedy they are. And one can assume that Ember, Smolder, and even Garble became the size that they did along with the other dragons because they showed a little bit of greed. They showcased that maybe off screen before they came on to the series. The point is, Spike has been portrayed as being more of a pony-like dragon, basically meaning he's not as greedy as a lot of dragons. And we've seen what would happen to someone like Spike if he let greed consume him. We've seen that. So it's not. So when it comes to Spike being small for his size, it's not because he's a kid. It's the fact that he's less greedy than any other dragon out there. Another thing you have to look at is the fact that, as some people point out, Spike is very mature for who he is. Some even point out that at times he's maturer than than the rest of the main six. And here's the other thing, and I hark back to this every time I bring this up. If Spike was a kid, if he was treated as a kid, then why is he now a crucial part, always has been, but now more so than ever, a crucial part of the main seven? Not the main six anymore, but the main seven or main eight if you include Starlight. If he's a kid, why is he a crucial part of that? If he's a kid, why would the creative staff allow him to sing basically a romantic love ballad / serenade during his portion of the True Gift of Giving song to Rarity? Why would they let him do that? I'm just saying. And again, another thing I harken back to is, if they wanted this to end, if they wanted him to get over his crush, let's be honest, Secret of My Excess in season 2 would have been it. there would be no more Crush after that. There would be no Spike falling, dragging tail overhead for Rarity. There would be none of that. But it's still there. I mean, Megan McCarthy, she basically kept it going because she knew fans loved seeing it. She knew fans supported it. I mean, heck, she allowed it into the movie somewhat. She gave us certain moments during like seasons 4, 5, and 6. So we had moments that was still, visible, still visually seen, and contributed to the story. Maybe not as much as they used to be in season 3 when Megan McCarthy first started off as executive producer, or even in season 2 and 1, but we still had them because of the fact that it's a very popular part of the show. It's very popular amongst a lot of fans. I mean, you go to conventions and there are fans that will cosplay as Spike and Rarity being together. So, and we're not just talking young fans, we're talking fans my age, Dusty Cat's age, Silver Quill's age, Dr. Wolf's, Doll Wilsonators, you name it. I mean, heck, Del Wilsonator, Will Thespio, did a voiceover for the webcomic Like a Fine Wine, where he voiced Spike, and that was a Sparity comic. You have people like I Love Kim Possible a lot, or I Love KP a lot, for short, along with Sweetie Bloom and Voice of Reason, that still technically ship these two together because it's a major part of the show. It's like a major part of the heart of the show, if you will. And they see that basically it has to have a conclusion. I mean, even those that don't support it and ship it, like Golden Fox and Map, Miss Antopony, if you will, feel that the time has come for it to be done with, and to give us some kind of resolution. No matter how it happens, just get it done with. And again, you have others like Cartoon Gentlemen that feel the same way. And I brought this up in the more recent video I did. Times change things. And A&Y basically said in his video that he did 4 to 5 years ago, at the end of it, he said, we don't know what was going to happen behind the scenes creatively with the staff in the near future. He mentioned Megan McCarthy and the current staff at the time may not be the same staff going forward. And guess what? As soon as season 8 came around, they weren't. Megan McCarthy went on to be senior vice president at Hasbro's marketing. M.A. Larson moved on to other projects. And the only people still there are the likes of Josh Habers, Jim Miller. Amy Kennedy Rogers has gone on to move on to other projects. And the people joining Jim Miller and Josh Haber are the likes of Nicole Dubuque, Stephen Davis, Joanne and Christina Lady Riders, Gail Simone, you name it. And they're basically looking at what fans like and what makes the show popular in the eyes of fans, and they're saying to themselves, hey, let's include that. Let's add that into the story. I mean, why do you think Gail Simone added that moment at the beginning of Between Dark and Dawn with Rarity running after Spike after he got caught up in that tree thanks to that giant tortoise? I'm just saying, guys, it's worth acknowledging here that they wouldn't keep this going if they felt it wasn't worth if they basically the creative staff, no matter how much has changed behind the scenes, they wouldn't keep this going or keep this up in some capacity with moments here and there if there wasn't some kind of proper conclusion that they had in store for it. Now, Jim Miller did come out and say, look, we didn't get to everything before we wrapped up production of the series. So who's to say Sparity won't get a conclusion? We don't. But if it does get a conclusion, one can only wonder if it's going to have an episode dedicated to it, or if it's going to be referenced maybe in a final scene for the series. Maybe a future scene. We don't know. The thing is, when I get back down to it, like I said, age is not an excuse for the true reasoning. Pedophilia is not an excuse for the true reasoning. The true reasoning, and I know I rambled on for a bit, and we're about 15 minutes, 25 seconds in, but the real reasoning is fans are just upset at how they see Rarity treat Spike, how they feel she's manipulated him into doing what she wants. Some still harken back to Secret of My Excess in season 2 and basically feel that she manipulated the Fire Ruby out of his possession and into hers, and that's not the case. That's not the case, and that's a fact. You know, so honestly, I think what it is. So honestly, I think that's really what it is. The fact that they're still upset that there is no acknowledgement from the staff or even in story, in show, in character from Rarity or any rest of the main 6 or 7, basically calling her out for manipulating Spike, like, and using him to her own advantage and not returning the feelings. Again, I think that's the real reason. It's not age, it's not acknowledgement or reference to pedophilia or anything like that. It's the fact that they're just upset at that Rarity has, in their eyes, manipulated Spike to get what she wants and doesn't really feel the same way he does about her for him. And that's the real reason they're against it. There can't be any other reason. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said earlier, in fantasy, when dragons are involved in a fantasy story, dragons end up coming in all shapes and sizes. They are not one size, they're always different sizes. And in the case of Friendship is Magic, it's all about whether or not greed affects you to a certain point. So, no matter how people debate it, the one thing they're going to have to acknowledge is at the end of the day, the Sparity Spike Rarity relationship is something that has always been and always will be part of this show. Even fans, like I said, you go on YouTube, DeviantArt, many places on social media, and you type in Spike and Rarity, Sparity, MLP, and basically you'll see a peripheral of fan art, web comics, motion comics, PMVs, pony music videos dedicated to these two and dedicated to them in a romantic, positive way. And again, as I said before in the video, you cannot tell me that the staff, creative staff, especially when people tweet it to them, don't see these and go like, hey, this is something fans want to see. Now, whether or not it does happen, we won't know maybe for another few weeks thanks to the early releases in China and other countries, but we'll just have to wait and see. Because I can guarantee that if something comes up in one of those future episodes down the line that basically acknowledges Spike and Rarity as an item in some capacity, the internet here is going to blow up. The internet, the fan base, they're going to blow up, and it's going to blow up in a way to where, yes, even those that may not be supporting of it will probably be like, okay, finally, it's done. It's out of the way. Good. They'll just be happy it's got a resolution. I'll put it that way. Because, like I said before, I look at it. I look at it this way. I look at them, if they were to go that route, I look at them treating Spike and Rarity's relationship, friendship, whatever you want to call it, in a very similar manner as they're doing with Big Mac and Sugar Bell. Basically, Big Mac and Sugar Bell, continuity-wise, we know they're an item, but here's the thing. They're not shoved in your face. It's not every episode, oh, googly eye and all that. It's every once in a while, and you get certain moments here and there. So, to me, that's how I see them probably treating this if they do go that route. Not saying that they will, and I'm not saying they won't. So, that's all I'm going to say, guys. But let me know what you all think down below. Just thought I'd do this update, and I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care. I'm out. But I just thought I'd update you guys on one of my more recent videos.